Yeah. I'll react if I had to. Put some things in the past too, and don't let them distract you, but react if you have to. Yeah. I'll react if I had to. Put some things in the past too, and don't let them distract you, but react if you have to. Yeah. React if you have to. Yeah.
Don't know the time, yeah. Just know that I'm, one of a kind, What's on your mind, What hard to find, Beautiful mind, Still in my prime, Just know that I'm here.
What's up, Jeff?
Hey, man.
You know, I don't have
Welcome
any...
back.
What?
Welcome back.
Yeah. I don't have any music to lead into this as, like... Not that it fucking matters. Like, I just verbalized the name of the song. I will tell a funny story because we're going to talk about church today. And our church band, who I'm very close with here at the Clayton Site.
Yep.
I asked them on my bachelor party when I brought like 25 to 30 degenerates to our church to start off the bachelor party at 9 a.m. service on a Sunday. The motto was no church, no titties. If you don't come to church, you can't go out and play. I asked the band to cover Rosa Parks by Outkast.
Yeah.
And give me that Nuts by Easy. And it was a hard no.
Yeah. I'm just trying to picture Neil doing those songs.
You're in one of the bands, one of the sites, and I bet you'd probably give me a hard no on that too.
Yes, that's true.
Well, I'm just trying to cool up the church a little bit.
I just don't know if I have the chops to play those songs.
We'll figure it out.
Yeah.
Good, man. That was. Did you watch the Oscars last night?
No, I watched the XFL. St. Louis,
Caw-caw,
St.
right?
Louis Battlehawks.
Is that what everybody's saying?
Yeah. St. Louis brought home the W.
Fucking creep Joaquin Phoenix, man. Did you see that?
I didn't see it.
Oh.
Are we gonna get? Was he very liberal?
No, I mean, I think it was more like he said something about cows and their calves and their milk, and I said, man, this guy, he's like, you know how bad it is and how bad we treat him, so I just went and made me a little veal parm.
Okay.
And washed it down with a glass of milk. Then he quoted his brother, who was much cooler than him.
River, yeah.
And I can hear his brother saying, don't quote me with your crazy, brah. Come on. Come on.
Yeah.
No, Ashley's a big Oz. She's an LA girl.
Yeah. Oh, that's right. I always forget that.
So, like, anytime we see something LA, I'm like, what's that? What's that? What's that? She's like, stop. Yeah, she went to Pepperdine University in Malibu. Have you seen that campus?
No. Is it awesome?
It's sickening how, I mean.
Does it look a lot like Southern Illinois University?
Not 1%.
Okay.
It is a beautiful, I mean, it's got to be up there with like the most beautiful campus on the earth.
Wow.
And I thought maybe, you know, being from LA, to make stereotype, and maybe I'm marrying into some money. If I was, it's all at Pepperdine University.
Yes.
So we watched that last night.
You better vote for Bernie then. All right, moving on.
I'm literally going to go throw up. Yeah, man. Last week was a strong one, I think, with the mental health stuff, and you know, just I want to talk more about that. Not necessarily too much today, but I want to have some people on that can share some stories with it.
Yeah, I think that'd be great.
I got a couple in mind, you know, and like I was talking about the shame and the stigmas, and you know, God bless my old man, but he used to say, some people take fucking Prozac. I like to take a little whiskey and cocaine. So each, you know, to each their own, but the point of the last week's episode, maybe the more healthy way would be the quote unquote Prozac way.
Yeah, right.
The topic was good though, and hopefully we started kind of breaking down some stigmas. Today, you know, I think we're going to title this one The Gathering. Two little church boys.
There you go.
What do you think?
Perfect. All right, sounds good.
I don't know why I'm throwing the word little in there.
No.
We're not little guys, but We're two little church boys.
It's
Jeff.
kind of like how they always call the big guy tiny.
There you go. Right. Yeah, the bouncer at the tavern.
Yeah.
Yeah, with the face eardrops tatted on his face,
Exactly.
reflecting the body count he has. That's my tattoo artist, by the way.
Nice.
Good old Bert. My buddy, before we get into the church stuff, texted me today as the depression anxiety episode dropped.
Yep.
And he said, "What are you? Does Pfizer writing you guys a big fucking check for that episode?" It's pretty funny.
wish.
I said, right. So I got to thinking, like, I'm not against partners. I didn't want to do it right off. I don't want to water down the message with something that, like, we're trying to get paid for this podcast. One day maybe we'll entertain some partners if costs start getting out of hand and as much time as we're starting to put into it. So, and if it can go to good, well, but no, Pfizer's not, unfortunately, a sponsor of the Pond Offs Anonymous podcast.
Right.
But as you said, yet. I was always kicking around the idea of my old tavern sponsoring this, but I don't know, how that business model works.
I thought about that too.
Like, hey, don't drink, but if you do, go to Fridays. Exactly. I think I'm going to do an episode on Fridays one of these days and just talk about my life, like, and good. It's not all bad, it's not bad at all. It is when you become a fucking alcoholic because of you can't control your alcohol, right?
It's like Cheers, right?
Absolutely. And the common theme is community.
Can we go do it live and eat some of their new popcorn?
You can stick the popcorn up your ass, but I definitely will. We can maybe do that live and get a couple pies for sure. But it's about community. That's what draws people to like neighborhood taverns and like Elks Lodges and Knights of Columbuses, and they got a moose, an elk, there's a bear, a tiger, a lion, who knows, right?
Yeah.
But community is what's important here. And I want to tell today my church story. I want to talk about the gathering, who's not sponsoring this,
right?
But if they like what I say, then maybe I can be off the hook for a couple weeks in the basket. You think?
Yeah, it's kind of like a weird reverse sponsorship.
Right. I'll run that past Matt and Evie and see what they have to say about it. But I want to start if and you. Yeah, I haven't given you much heads up, but I want to hear about your church story. And before anybody turns the channel here, we're not going to beat the drum like you need to come to church and go into some big Bible school theology class. That's not what we're going to do. We're just two ordinary guys and talk about. I'd like to hear Jeff's church story and his faith journey, and then I'll share mine and then bring it home with, how it can be life fucking transforming, saving, all that shit. So stay with us, even for those of you that are adamant non-churchers or have been burned by stupid fucking religions, or like a lot of my friends that went to Catholic schools literally had Jesus beat the fuck out of them by fucking nuns and their rulers and all that shit. I mean, that's a thing, man.
Yeah.
I know so many people that went to Catholic school, grade school, high school, and they fucking hate religion. Like, good job,
right?
You fucking dumb bitch. Never mind. But seriously, like, way to do it.
You had a shot at them from their entire life.
You just start beat the shit out of them and say, if you don't do this, you're not you all this shit not to do. Like, I tell them to get fucked, man. That's not what faith is about. And maybe you can hear our journeys, and understand that a little bit more. But I do know that a lot of people have been burnt badly. Especially the gay community, and it's just it's there's a lot of deep fucking wounds. So we found a place that embraces people, all people, and like I always say, they let my ass in, they'll let anybody in.
Right.
Yeah. Well,
I agree.
I was just gonna say, what the fuck's that supposed to mean? So without Jeff, why don't I give you the mic here? Per se, and it start with your how faith looked like when you were a kid, and then how you ended up going here to the gathering in St. Louis.
Yeah, I grew up in church for as long as I can remember. I was going to church with my dad, who was Church of Christ, and they didn't sing, or they didn't have instruments in their church.
I think that's what Pepperdine is.
Really?
Church of Christ.
Okay.
Is there a Church of Christ and a United Church of Christ?
Yeah, so United Church of Christ is the more progressive.
I think Pepperdine's Church of Christ.
Okay, and Church of Christ is...
It's not confusing at all.
Right, exactly. Is more traditional in certain ways, and but I went there for a while, and then we went to an American Baptist church, which American Baptist is way different than Southern Baptist. It's like not...
It's not confusing either.
I know. Look it up.
Yeah.
But anyway, I just mean to say that, like...
You grew up in a town. So I might interrupt you. I just want to make sure you hit some points. So you grew up in a town that was a small town, right?
Very small. Yeah, we had 2,600 people, 2,700 people.
Churches and taverns. That's and
right.
Maybe a bank.
That's all it was. And then the schools and basketball games and things like that.
Sure.
And our girls were the best. They were better than the boys.
I love farm girls. Oh, wait.
I mean, the girl basketball team was better than the boys. We had some great ladies there, too.
Yeah, I bet.
Wonderful women. Upstanding.
I just misunderstood you again.
So anyway, I grew up in a small town and grew up going to church, and was one of the, we've talked on here before, I play music, and that was one of the most, I don't know how to say it. It gave me the opportunity to play music.
At the Baptist church?
At the Baptist church, yeah.
That was some rock and roll.
Yeah, it was. It was pretty cool.
Really?
I learned guitar, and they'd let me play guitar there.
Really?
Yeah.
Nice. Yeah, I got this vision of none of that.
Yeah. I mean, it was, they still had the choir, the things like that, but it was a good place to grow up in a church. But then, I went away to college, stopped going to church.
Where'd you go to school?
Elmhurst College in Elmhurst, Illinois, up by Chicago.
Okay.
Yep. So I
never knew that.
Yeah. Went up there. Didn't stay long.
Okay.
Because I failed music theory.
I was going to see if you knock somebody up. If this is your story, not mine. Go ahead.
Right. Yeah. And so ended up back in the community college circuit.
Sure.
Hit a couple of those. And I was asked to play bass in a traveling ministry. Because I'm like, this is cool. I want to play electric bass and a band. And so essentially in my head, I was going on tour. But meanwhile, we were going to church camps and lock-ins. So
you weren't getting bras thrown at you. And
no. I was signing. We went
to big-ass fucking lines in the back before you took the stage.
We went to a youth prison in Kewanee, Illinois.
A youth prison?
Youth prison.
Okay.
And it was like, going in there was like Jurassic Park. They had these huge gates. And this is the weirdest thing I ever did. They're like, can I have your autograph? And all they had was a Bible. So I'm signing Bibles.
Look at you.
I know. I'm like,
little Jesus over here.
This is weird. But on that trip, that summer that we did that, it just really changed my life. And I realized that, I felt like a failure when I had to leave Elmhurst because I failed music theory and I just love music. Meanwhile, I felt like God gave music back to me through that experience. So one thing leads to another. I end up being an intern at my wife's home church. We meet.
Oh, so that's how you met her.
Yep.
Let me rewind real quick. So
sure.
you were, you went to church with your dad. You played in some music at the American Baptist Church, is what you said.
Went there with my mom.
Okay. Were you connected?
And they're married. They just went to different churches.
Okay.
I don't know if that matters.
No, it's it's interesting for sure. Did you feel connected to like faith and Jesus when you were, or were you just going with because I think there's a point in our lives when we're kids and just going with our parents, right?
Yeah, that's exactly what it was for me. I mean, and sometimes, sometimes people say, man, Jeff, you're going to be a pastor one day, which by the way, I'm not, but I'm close. I guess I was close at one point.
You help people, brother.
At that point, I wasn't feeling close to God or didn't really understand it.
Okay.
I mean, they did their best to teach it. It wasn't like they were doing a bad job, but no, it wasn't. It really wasn't until I did that traveling ministry.
So because I know you as a musician, loves music.
Yeah.
And then a liberal. No, I'm kidding. The good fucking guy that you are, right? So for God to use that music to really kind of awaken you, faith or spiritually wise, is that's a pretty cool story.
Yeah,
man.
for sure.
So you met Brittany at, where was this?
Pawnee, Illinois.
Pawnee, Illinois.
Yeah,
right.
it's right by Springfield.
Another big town.
Yep, same size, but at least it was close to something.
Yeah, sure.
So we met, and then I got a job in Fairview Heights. And
You were living where at this time?
at that time, I was living. Let's see, that was the summer before. I was living in Springfield.
Wow, commuting to Fairview?
No. I moved to Fairview.
Okay.
And then she ended up moving there too, and we
With you or
separate
for a different reason?
Yeah. She moved there to go to
Bullshit. She followed her man.
Yeah, exactly.
Tell her well, she doesn't listen to this, does she?
She listened to today.
Okay. So she follows you to Fairview Heights, stalks you, as
Yes,
we should say.
that's right.
And is this when you were at that one church?
Yes.
Okay.
That one church.
Did you just decide to go there or you got a job there?
No, I got a job there.
So that's why you came down. Okay.
And it was great.
And so God, for those of you that are lost already, kind of tugged you down here.
Yeah.
And through that church, who I know that you kind of had a issue falling out with. I don't know if that's the right word. It's your story.
Yeah. At the time, it wasn't. When I left, so I stayed there for like 4.5 to 5 years on staff. And when I left there was no falling out. But around that time, I don't know, maybe a half a year to a year before I left, there's a great sermon that our pastor preached that has made quite an impression online. Called The Birds, the Bees, and the Bible.
Oh, okay.
You know this one?
Okay. So our pastor currently,
here.
Yes.
That's right.
Matt, you can say it. Matt
Miofsky,
yeah.
And he preached a sermon, and Brittany had came to the Clayton Site to be the kids minister. And then she's like, hey, you got to check this out. Okay. So she had already been on staff here at the gathering.
All right.
So
you're kind of cheating on the other church.
Yeah, kind of. There was like, yeah.
Did you feel dirty?
Nah, not really.
Good.
So she sent me the sermon. She's like, listen. And so I think she had to go to Target or something. And meanwhile, I listened to the sermon in the car, and I'm like, wow, this is crazy, because I'd conveniently never thought about it. I knew about it, about basically this issue of homosexuality in the church. And I'm going to use the word privilege.
Yeah, that's fine. That's a woke ass word, but yeah, absolutely.
But
I get it.
It's true.
You're not gay.
When you don't have to think about something that someone else has to think about or go through, and it sucks for them. I mean, it's a privilege not to have to do that. And so I never had to think about it. And I was you said woke, I kind of did wake up.
Yeah, I was kidding, but you're right.
Of course, I know. Yeah. Oh yeah, for sure. But
I've had those moments.
Yeah. I'm like, man, this is crazy. And so at that church, I asked the pastor at the time, where are we on this? And I don't
piss me off.
I kind of feel weird saying it, because if this guy doesn't remember it the way I do, or remember it at all. Anyway, how I remember it is he said, well, we don't really elevate one sin above another sin.
Okay.
It was kind of that. And so I guess if you broke it down to like what people
are
normally
taught that
say,
shit. I mean, I hate to
sure.
Then if you're born different color, then it's a sin. Get the fuck out of here. It's racist. People call it homophobic, but people are born a certain way. It's fucking racist.
Yeah.
And it's just more prevalent, I think, in the churches. I guess you're right. We don't think about that shit because of being a straight white guy.
Yeah. And kind of when I realized...
And I'm not like Mr. fucking woke liberal.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Well, and that's exactly it. It's like, I don't think there's some issues you don't have to be liberal or conservative.
Just don't be a racist asshole.
Yeah, just don't be a jerk. And so I think...
Let us pray.
And so I think at that point I realized that I don't know if I'm at a place where anyone can come and worship and be themselves. And so I started to...
And you were employed.
Yeah, I was there. I was employed there.
Okay.
So I started to figure out.
That's ballsy, man.
I need to find another job, and I did do a stopgap year at a church in Maryville, Illinois.
Okay.
And they were on
not the one that got shot up, was it?
No,
Remember that?
Yeah, I do.
That was fucked up.
That was crazy.
It's real close to home. I remember that on the news. That was bad news, man. Mm-hmm. Mental health.
Yeah, and we had to do it I was at the church in Fairview Heights at the time when that happened.
Yeah,
and we knee-jerk reacted and had this whole security team.
I'm sure
people running around with guns in church. It was crazy and kind of weird.
Evie, who's a lead pastor of the Clayton Site, is from Texas, and a couple weeks ago or months ago when that church got shot up in Texas, that guy didn't last very long, and she's like, "That's one good thing about Texas. The good guys." I don't know. I'm putting words in her mouth, but
right.
They were like, "Really, you're gonna?" This church had a bunch of ex-FBI guys.
Yeah,
they put a couple holes in that.
Bad move. Yeah.
Anyway, so when did you find the gathering? So you found the gathering. Then when did you kind of jump ship?
I would come to Saturday night services.
Those were cool. I missed those.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Eventually, I didn't have Saturday night responsibilities at the church I was at the time in Maryville. So Ryan Hebel was about to go on paternity leave. Yeah. His son was born, and he's like, "Hey, could you do some Saturday night services?" So I came over and did the music at the Saturday night services. And then one thing led to another. I got a call from Miofsky, and he said, "Hey, come and interview for this Webster job." We launched a site in Webster Groves, and they wanted somebody to do the music there. So I came and interviewed, and I think I was the only one that interviewed.
I have a hard time with him when he says, "Hey, come and do this." Like, you just can't. You don't say no.
Right.
Yeah, it's not like fucking hero worship, but I will say the guy had a major role in saving my life. So,
sure, absolutely.
I can still,
and a major role in
curse
changing
him out a little bit,
my faith life,
that's
and
awesome.
How I look at things, and
yeah. I think a lot of people. I think he's his perspective has been, like you said, very awakening for people. So you've been to the gathering ever since?
Yeah. So I guess
now you work here.
I've been working here for 5 years now.
5 years.
It's crazy.
Yeah. And you commute from Belleville.
Yeah. Takes me like 25 minutes.
I used to come here also. So
yeah.
Man, thanks for sharing. And if you think of something, just pop in or jump, interrupt me and let us know. And the reason I wanted to hear yours, and then obviously share my story, and especially from I may not have lived. You and I think lived different lives, right?
Yeah. I had the party phase in high school.
Yeah, right. I get it.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. No, I'm not saying that. I don't want to come off as like cool versus not cool. That's
right.
No.
Well, I don't want to come off as like a perfect person that I went to church, even if I was hungover.
Yeah.
I hope my mother's not listening to that.
There you go.
She knew. She always knew. She just didn't say.
We'd be surprised. We think our parents are dumb, right?
Yeah.
Not. So I recently, one of the greatest honors of my life, me and my wife adopted Charlie.
Yeah.
And our pastor, Evie, who we love and is a lifelong friend now, got to come into the courtroom, and I asked the judge if it's okay, because I don't know how they feel about mixing that shit, but if Evie could pray, the judge looked at me like I was crazy, like in a good way. She's like, absolutely.
Yeah.
So there was Evie praying with us, and the judge, and the bailiff, and the lawyers, believe it or not, the fucking lawyers.
Yeah.
Got some prayer in. And they prayed, and she prayed a beautiful prayer at the courtroom while Charlie was sitting there getting ready to get adopted. And I got to think, somebody had mentioned to me prior to the adoption, when we found out the date, that was the 8-year anniversary of the Clayton Site getting launched. So for those of you, a lot of you don't know, the gathering is made up of 3 physical locations in St. Louis. One's in Maplewood off of McCausland Avenue. There's one in Webster, and then there's one here in Clayton. And that Clayton Site started 8 years from the day that we adopted Charlie. And my wheels started spinning when I found that out.
Yeah.
And let me tell you why. 8 years ago, I was a different motherfucker. I was a completely different person. And it floored me what I was doing 8 years ago, January of 2012. While simultaneously, some good fucking people were planting seeds for this building, for the Clayton Site to become a church where people can come and have their lives fucking transformed. I'd been going to the gathering while I was drinking with my mother. My father would even go. I think I told you how he would say he liked that Master Pat.
Yes.
Instead of Pastor Matt. But he did. I mean, the guy's good. And I would come hungover, and Matt would kind of call me out, which I always appreciated. And, I went on drinking, and he always said if I ever wanted to, change some things up or have a conversation, and then he said, Chris, I'm from Granite City. I'm not scared of your bullshit.
Yeah.
Like, straight up. I had so much respect for him. So January, I'd come, and then in January there was just the McCausland site. I was reconnecting with an ex who I at one point in my life later on that year of 2012 had become engaged to, and it was a toxic fucking relationship, Jeff. Unhealthy. I don't want to dwell on. It's not right fair to her, but I pray for her. Obviously, we cared about each other, but I think both of us were addicts,
right?
To different things, and there's been a lot of hurt and brokenness and trauma in her life prior to adulthood, and it was a toxic fucking. It was hunky dory at first. It always is, right? And then the wheels started to fall off rather rapidly. Then in May of 2012, my old man died. And I think it prolonged my relationship with her because I literally had somebody with me for 24 hours of the day. I mean, even if I was in the fucking bathroom, she was outside of it in the kitchen, and I had her. And I needed that at that time, and I'm grateful for her for that. She was there for me. But that was when my life here. So I'm trying to illustrate this simultaneous shit, and I'll drive the point home. The Clayton site of the church that I now go to. You don't. You go to the McCausland site, right? Mm-hmm. To attend, right?
Yep.
We're all one team.
Yep.
One team, one dream. I go to Clayton, and I had been to McCausland before, so now I'm officially. I guess if you gotta get a tattoo saying where you're at. I'm a Clayton tat. I think I'm gonna get that sleeved. But back then, my old man died. I reached out to Matt Miofsky, who's a lead pastor of this church called The Gathering. And I said something along the lines, I should have fucking brought it with me. It was powerful. And that's called planning and show prep. We don't do that.
Right. What's that?
I asked him, what do I do? I'm fucked up. My old man died. What do you do? And he said, I know you're hurting. And this is a Cliff Notes. He said, you can go one of two ways. Wrote me back. You can go the way of Jesus and realizing some shit and it's going to hurt, but you can go that way, or you can let this fuck the rest of your life up. And I think what he was getting at is that's probably the easy way, and that's the way I took. Yeah, right? Thank you.
Yeah.
God, you are his employee.
I am on staff at that church.
Paraphrase.
Should I have admitted that? I don't know.
To be honest with you, I think that may not have been paraphrased.
Okay.
He knew how bad it was. So I've explained this. Tom and I were brothers, best friends, father, son, all in one, times 10,000 with a fuse and a lit match. We were fucking everything, man. So when he died, I was done. But I had her, prolonged a relationship, all while this is going on in the summer of 2012, this church is gaining traction. And the pastor at the time was Matt Fulmer. He's a good friend. He was in my wedding. I love him. And he was starting this church kind of, as he'll say, I think, kind of like a rookie pastor that wasn't supposed to be a pastor. And Dmiofsky did that thing, you know. Hey, yes. I think you need to interview, which means this is what you're going to do. Right?
Yeah.
So people are planting these seeds 8 years ago, and for a place that I would eventually find and eventually have my life fucking transformed. And this isn't some hocus pocus Jesus shit that people say. This is real. This is real, man. Mm-hmm. My life went from rock bottom in the gutter in 2012 all the way to 2014 when I got sober. I got sober in 2014, and the first place I went when I got out of rehab was to fucking church on Sunday at McCausland. Hearing there's a Clayton Site.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. What's that all about? How does that look with one pastor? Does Matt preach there? Does Matt not preach there? Who preaches there? All that shit that people don't... fair questions, right?
Sure.
Well, I got out of rehab right around Easter, and I immediately used this church as like a surrogate AA. Mm-hmm. So I need to get involved. I need accountability. I need community. I moved to St. Louis and was closer to my mother, who really I can do a couple whole episodes, you know, blowing smoke up her ass. She saved my life, and I love her, and I'm always working on being nicer to her.
Yeah.
So yeah, she's not allowed to listen to this, but I might email her and say, you can listen to episode 8, right? At you know, the time frame that I'm telling you, Mom, I love you, thank you. So I lived over here, and I got involved in in things I could. So I volunteered for Easter. How do I serve? I'm going to serve at Easter. And that's where I meet Matt Fulmer. And he's like, you're going to be in my core group. So now he's learning like Dmiofsky. He's just not asking, he's telling.
Yeah.
So I get put in a core group with Fulmer. And it was and core groups for people that don't know are just small groups. We met on Tuesday nights. It's once a week. It's like an AA. I mean, for me, I went there. I didn't miss. I had people that would hold me accountable. And to this day, I'm like lifelong friends with the people that were in that core group. And one of the girls baked me a cake when I hit my 1 year sober anniversary.
That's awesome.
And Matt Fulmer was in my wedding, and one of the gals, an elderly gal, and her late husband became two of my closest friends, and her name's Martha, and she introduced me to Ashley, and she's been it's amazing the people that God puts in your fucking life, man. Yeah. I can't, I say I can't explain it, but I need to try. That's what the fuck we're doing on the podcast,
absolutely,
right?
Yeah.
She has meant the world to me. You know, she's also in recovery, and she, her husband, I knew him for about a year, and it was such a blessing and an honor to know him. He got sick pretty quick, and that shit just makes you love harder and be together. And I met her here at Clayton, and man, it's just crazy the people that I met in that fucking core group, and how to this day how important they were, and how it, especially early in the infancy of my sobriety. And it was just crazy. So I never will forget them. So I'm trying to articulate the importance and why the 8-year birthday, I guess you want to call it,
sure,
is so important, because anytime I look back to the way I used to do things and what I'm doing now, it's a fucking shit, man, moment.
Yeah.
I'm like, I can't, just unbelievable, man. And I started coming to Clayton to hear Matt Fulmer preach live to support him, because every once in a while the site pastors will preach the sermon, and like Miofsky gets a day off to go golfing or something. I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
So he's got 3 churches to run, so it is hard to be everywhere at once, and and he's a pretty good talent evaluator, I would say. Sure. We have some of the best pastors that don't just preach on Sundays; they actually walk the walk. Welcome everybody. Like I said, I'm allowed in, but I because I was in this core group, I'm like, man, I'm going to come sit at Clayton. My comfort zone was McCausland.
Sure.
When you're preaching live, and then my core group kind of all went to Clayton, so I just started kind of making it my home. And lo and behold, there's this brunette girl that I would have never, ever thought that I would ever, like, that she was my type. This fucking goody two-shoe church girl, social worker. And the reason, for years, I think we met, I met her by 2015, so about a year into my sobriety, like people, my mom was always kind of saying, are you meeting any girls at church? I'm like, Mom, I'm not going to fucking church to get laid. This isn't the fucking club. I didn't go to clubs. This isn't the tavern, okay? And I mean that a lot of people join churches to find community or are lonely and can meet like-minded, and that's great.
Yep.
And I was not going to be that guy. I did, right?
Right.
But I for the longest time, people were, even then my mom met Ashley and was like, what about Ashley? What about Ashley? And I'm like, I don't shit where I eat. This church was life and fucking death for me.
Yeah.
I had to come here and focus on on getting, what does my mom say? Holy, healthy, and happy. Mm. And I've been in too many relationships that parted ways on a, just put it this way, it wouldn't be a good idea to go to church together.
Right.
And I didn't want to fuck this up. So church girls, like meeting a girl at church, was not why I was coming on Sundays. And sure as shit, I met a girl at church. Martha actually got us together. And I was maybe chasing, I don't want to go there, but I was, when I started like considering, maybe I should ask this girl out, because she kept getting better and better, like every time we were around each other, and the forces started really kind of getting fucked up. I used to be able to hold myself back, but I didn't want to, because I knew if I asked this girl, she was like the serious girl. There was no like being a fucking jerk off. Or if it didn't work out, like, I mean, and not that I really was, but it's scary when you're like, I want to date this girl who in my mind was like way above me. She is. I get reminded that by people often. That if by some fucking miracle she said yes, the next thing you know, like, it's a really serious, and I got to be on my best fucking behavior. So all that stuff, I was psyching myself out with excuses, and then finally, I grew a pair, and I asked her out, and then here we are now with a 6-year-old. So, and the reason I bring all that up is because 8 years ago, I was being a fucking asshole on rock bottom, drunker than shit, and wasting away my life until the day that I died, which I was hoping to speed up because I wanted to be with my old man again. And I, I've always been I've always been God-fearing and always loved Jesus and knew that my old man was in heaven, and may have had a little explaining to do to get through the front door, but he's a bullshitter. He's there, and I wanted to be with him as soon as possible, so I was trying to drink myself to death. While I was doing that, a group of people took a leap, started a fucking church in Clayton, Missouri, left, because this is how it works. At McCausland, getting too full. We had to do something. So Matt challenged people to come to Clayton and be a base, to start make the pews full at Clayton.
Yeah.
And that happened. People did that. They took a leap. If they didn't take a leap, I don't know, man. They were doing that 8 years ago while I was doing everything in the world to end my life. And now, because of that leap that people did, I met my wife, who was finishing her fostering licensing, became a licensed foster parent. Fuck, I'm getting a little emotional here. Got a placement named Charlie. Because we knew that we were destined here. This was going to be the like forever relationship. Mm-hmm. I got my foster license, and then I proposed to her at the church on the front fucking steps. I mean, that's a little churchy, ain't it?
That is a little churchy.
Come on. It was hot. Outside.
It's a beautiful building.
It is a beautiful building. The pictures are great.
Yeah.
And then I got married in this church. And then after we left court, as parents, full-time parents, that nobody can take this kid from us, we had a party here celebrating that.
Yeah.
So that's what the gathering did for me. And I think it's important, whether you're a church person or not, is I was talking earlier with a friend of mine, one of your friends texted me this morning that her grandma's it's not looking good. So we got to talking about her grandmother's legacy. She lived a long, great life, and we're praying hard for this family and my friend, both of them. But she left a great legacy. Our grandparents are responsible for us being here. They're partly responsible for us being here, and they're very responsible for who we are. And or vice versa. They're very responsible for us being here, partly responsible for who we are. And I've been thinking about legacy. Like, what are we doing now, today, to build something that people can come and it can transform their lives? Like, what if we stopped going to church every Sunday? What happens then? Like, nobody can, it's not every Sunday, but sometimes people get up and out of bed like, I don't want to go to church today. Well, what if everybody did that, Mm-hmm. And then there's no place, there's no community where somebody like me that was on his deathbed, drowning in whiskey, and covered in strippers and cocaine. I'm just grateful that people came.
Yeah.
So what are we doing? What are you doing now to build a legacy, to leave behind something, or to plant seeds that can eventually, and you don't have to, my life was transformed, but just to help people.
Sure.
And it doesn't cost money to do those things. This church is thriving. We have 3,000 to 4,000 people when we consolidate for Easter. And I know countless of other people that have had their lives transform in these walls. And we have amazing pastors. We have support groups for people that need fucking help. Like just last Sunday, we talked about addiction, believe it or not, coincidentally. And I know it's registered with people. People are reaching out to you and I for help. And we met because of this fucking church.
That's right. Yeah, absolutely.
And this is one story amongst countless stories that are just in these buildings. And I'm not saying like, come to, I am saying come check us out. If you want to come to the gathering, we'll let you in.
Yeah.
And we'll make room for you, and we'll include you, and we'll pray for you, and we'll do all that shit. We'll love your ass. It doesn't matter. I mean, There's no fucking asterisks in this place. Come on a Sunday. Check it out. But if not, I will say this. I commuted from Belleville. You commuted from Belleville.
Yep.
Like some of my friends, like think that's like the longest drive. Like they're commuting to fucking Chicago.
Yeah.
You know, we're not in Kansas City, motherfuckers. We're in St. Louis, right across the river.
Yeah, that river might as well be a million miles
They got
wide.
a couple bridges.
Yeah.
I know they suck during the week, but guess what? Church is on Sunday morning. And there's no traffic.
Man. It takes me 20 minutes to get here on
Excuses
Sunday morning.
are like asshole. I mean, well, I used to say, you know, but anyway. So if that's too far of a drive, find a church by you. Find a group by you that's going to hold each other accountable and help each other out when one's fucking broken. And we've, you know, I'm sure we've all had some real shit happen to us in our lives, and it sucks to go at it alone. And without going off on a tangent, I hope today's message here on this podcast can resonate with you, that for the people that even just go to church to fix themselves, you never know the fucking groundwork they're laying for people in the future.
Right.
To find. And I hope I've articulated it just a little bit here, because the words in my brain are, it's so powerful to me. And I'm so fucking grateful for people like Matt Fulmer, Ashley Mooring, Miofsky, Evie, you know, your ass, the singers. I mean, everybody that makes this place a welcoming place on the fucking front steps.
Yeah.
That comes in and makes coffee. Like it's not just for, we're not doing it just for our own benefit.
Right.
And I think sometimes we forget about how big of a fucking impact we actually make, and one life is worth it.
Absolutely. 100%.
Man. And I go back, and people that know me well, to what I was doing in a toxic relationship, doing God knows what, going to God knows where, and to what I'm doing now, and how this place was just, the seeds were getting planted and the people were fucking watering them. And it's been, you know, it's made a minor little impact in my life, right?
Yeah, just a little.
I mean, it's crazy, man. It's crazy. So that's the story today. Two little church boys. The gatherings in St. Louis. What's the website?
Gatheringnow.org.
And we'll put it in those show notes that you make me do every fucking week.
Yes.
But I mean it, man. There's people here that will just fucking care about you. So if you're out there and you're fucking lonely and you don't think anybody cares about you, that's bullshit. It's the fucking enemy. Come reach out, shoot me or Jeff an email. Check this church out. I'll introduce you to even the pastors, right? They walk the walk. Matt Miofsky walks the fucking walk. This isn't no hero worship, like I said. The guy, he's a close personal friend now, and what he did for my cousins when Ollie was sick. I knew, I was still drinking. I knew that if I changed my fucking life, that he had a place for me. And that's where we're at. So check us out. Give us a ring, an email, whatever the fuck. Man, I'm just powerful shit. Mm-hmm. All right, guys, I got to go. Let us pray.
Pondoff's Anonymous is Chris Pondoff and produced by me, Jeff Allen. Our music is Anti-Hero by McCall and Gentle Waters by Wild Wonder. For more information, visit pondoffsanonymous.com. Find us on Facebook and Instagram.